The GOP presidential race is down to, as Nikki Haley put it, one fella and a lady. Does Haley really think anyone sees her as a lady? A new battle erupts over the southern border, and the FAA wants to hire people with severe intellectual disabilities. Because what's the worst that could happen? A plane part flying off mid-flight? What are the odds of that happening? Again. That and more on this week's America Uncovered headlines. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. The Federal Highway Administration said states can no longer use humorous messages on electronic road safety signs. In their new 1,100-page manual on uniform traffic control devices, the FHA says funny, cute, and referential signs like the one seen here are distracting to drivers. They're giving states 2 years to implement changes. I have some thoughts. First of all, making people laugh is the only way you can get people to listen. That's the entire premise of this show. Do you think I like making hysterical Pokemon references while talking about abortions? No, I love it. But also, humor is the only way to get people to pay attention to your message. If anything, states should hire professional comedians to write road signs. Because the true danger in corny signs like these is that they'll make drivers take their eyes off the road to roll them up into the back of their skulls. Speaking of dangerous road conditions, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' road to the White House has ended in a fiery, flaming wreck as he announced the end of his presidential campaign and an endorsement for Donald Trump. Now, if you think it's cold in the Midwest and South, someone should check the temperature in hell, because Donald Trump graciously accepted DeSantis' endorsement.
Before we begin, I'd like to take time to congratulate Ron DeSantis and, of course, a really terrific person who I've gotten to know, his wife, Casey. But as you know, he left the campaign trail today at 3 p.m., and in so doing, he was very gracious and he endorsed me, so I appreciate it.
To show how much he appreciated it, Trump had this to say about his favorite catchphrase for DeSantis.
He just said, will I be using the name Ron DeSanctimonious? I said, that name is officially retired.
Oh my God, he's the greatest peacemaker of our time. So with DeSantis and now Vivek Ramaswamy out of the race, it's down to just Nikki Haley going mono lady against Trump, which didn't go so well for her at the New Hampshire primary, where Trump won by over 10 percentage points. That wasn't terribly surprising since she's polling about as well against Trump as Biden's latest approval ratings, which dropped to yet another new low of 33% in an ABC Ipsos poll. It's so bad that U.S. climate envoy John Kerry announced he would soon step down from his position to help Biden's re-election campaign. Because that'll be what puts Biden over the top. Millions of Americans are thinking, you know, I wasn't sold on Biden. But when I heard that the guy who lost to George W. Bush 20 years ago was behind him, that's when I knew he was a winner. But Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker thinks that Biden is doing better than the polls suggest, saying it's an outlier. Yeah, there's no way Biden's approval rating is only 33%. It's got to be at least 34 or maybe even 34.5%. I mean, it's not like Biden's approval rating has been falling faster and more consistently than he has. Pritzker also had this to say.
Maybe we ought to start by just acknowledging that Joe Biden has years of experience, that when you talk about someone's age, you're also talking about the wisdom that they've gained over many years and how they've demonstrated their empathy that they've learned from so many experiences. Joe Biden and Donald Trump are roughly the same age. Do you think Donald Trump has learned empathy in his life? He has not. Joe Biden has demonstrated it at every turn.
It's worth noting that in this same poll, those who were right-leaning overwhelmingly said Trump was the more empathetic candidate, with 46% saying he better understood their problems. Although I'm not sure it's because the billionaire understands the plight of the working man so much as Biden doesn't seem like he understands much of anything these days. Man, this is the saddest dazed and confused remake I could imagine. We went from all right to
don't mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit.
Biden's low approval and all of Trump's court cases, including a defamation trial brought forth by E. Jean Carroll that he insisted on personally testifying in, there's a lot of uncertainty. All of this uncertainty could potentially lead to a dark horse candidate claiming the presidency. And no, I'm not talking about RFK Jr. and a rumored Tulsi Gabbard as his vice president. I'm talking about America Uncovered's officially endorsed presidential candidate, Chris Christie. Some of you might say, but he already dropped out. Yeah, that's what he wants you to think. That's the kind of 9D interplanetary chess strategy we need right now. And after the break, the southern border situation somehow gets even messier. Welcome back. Democratic Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman says that while he's pro-immigration, the American dream is threatened by the illegal immigrants swarming the southern border, and the U.S. needs a strong border. He says, I honestly don't understand why it's controversial to say we need a secure border. A Democrat said that? What's next? President Biden finally admitting the border isn't secure?
Do you believe that the border is secure, sir?
No, it's not. I haven't believed it for the last 10 years. And I've said it for the last 10 years.
Do you believe your
Give me the money.
Do you believe your policies have enabled any of this crisis at the border that you're rattling it down?
I've asked for thousands more everything.
Oh, so Biden's policies aren't the issue. It's that he isn't getting the thousands of things he asked for. It's not his fault. It's Santa's, which is ironic considering that Santa makes a living getting over borders and sneaking into people's homes. Regardless of who's to blame, the situation at the southern border is a mess, and it's only getting worse. Members of the Texas National Guard have taken control of Eagle Pass, a Texas border town that has seen countless illegal immigrant entries, and blocked federal Border Patrol agents from entering. The mayor of Eagle Pass says, this is not a decision that we agreed to. This is not something that we wanted. This is not something that we asked for as a city. I want to make that clear. You know, I've always heard you don't mess with Texas, but this is Texas messing with Texas. I'm not sure how that's going to shake out. The Biden administration is asking the Supreme Court to tell Texas to stop blocking Border Patrol agents. The Justice Department explains in its filing, because Border Patrol can no longer access or view this stretch of the border, Texas has effectively prevented Border Patrol from monitoring the border. So they set up a perimeter that no one's able to cross? Sounds like instead of complaining, Border Patrol should be asking the Texas National Guard for tips. Texas Governor Greg Abbott released a statement accusing the federal government of not doing its job of enforcing immigration laws and saying Texas has a right to defend itself. Texas has gone to great lengths to try and do the job they say Border Patrol is failing to do, and it's been controversial. The Justice Department is also suing Texas over a new law set to take effect in March that would allow the state to arrest and deport immigrants caught entering illegally. And the Supreme Court ruled that Border Patrol agents can remove razor wire that Texas installed at the Mexico border. It didn't say that Texas had to stop installing razor wire, though. So Texas responded to this ruling by setting up even more razor wire. At this point, the Supreme Court sounds like exhausted parents. They got tired of hearing their kids complain about each other, so they just said, figure it out yourselves, leave us alone. The White House argues Texas is being inhumane. Texas argues the White House is being incompetent. And many argue they should quit arguing and actually work together to solve this issue. But compromise doesn't get political points, so back to bickering, I guess. In the middle of all this bickering, one woman and 2 children drowned while attempting to cross the Rio Grande River. This just led to, you guessed it, more bickering, with both sides blaming each other. This battle between Texas and the White House will rage on. But one thing is clear. Something needs to be done about the number of illegal border crossings. All these border crossings have led to over 3 million cases currently clogging the U.S. immigration courts. This issue has been described as a Rubik's Cube in terms of how difficult it is to solve. And to solve it, we need some sort of 9D interplanetary chess master, which is why we need Chris Christie for president. He could easily solve it, since he's already solved much bigger issues, such as pouring a small bag of M&Ms into a larger bag of M&Ms so he could eat more M&Ms. That's not just brilliant, that's a beautiful metaphor for life. I just wish I were smart enough to understand what it means. And after the break, the FFA wants to hire people with severe intellectual disabilities. Welcome back. The Federal Aviation Administration is actively recruiting workers with disabilities, including severe intellectual ones. The FAA's website states, targeted disabilities are those disabilities that the federal government, as a matter of policy, has identified for special emphasis in recruitment and hiring. They include hearing, vision, missing extremities, partial paralysis, complete paralysis, epilepsy, severe intellectual disability, psychiatric disability, and dwarfism. As you can imagine, this news has caused a lot of concern, especially since the FAA is in charge of investigating Boeing after a portion of one of their planes fell off mid-flight earlier this month. But no need to be worried, because the FAA's push to hire workers with intellectual disabilities isn't actually a new practice. This DEI statement has actually been on the FAA's website since at least 2013, which explains a lot if you think about it. And not just current events. I wouldn't be surprised if other agencies had this practice in place. Except, of course, the TSA, who I assume exclusively hire employees with severe intellectual and emotional development issues. You're well-adjusted and intelligent? Then the TSA ain't for you. Speaking of people who are intellectually and emotionally stunted, Congress has come up with yet another stopgap funding bill to avert yet another shutdown. Though avert is being pretty generous. A more accurate term would be kick the can down the road, but not a solid kick to the center of the can to send it flying, more like a flimsy kick that hits the side and only sends it a couple of feet at best. The current plan funds government agencies through a series of bills instead of one giant omnibus bill, and is split with 4 of the bills funding agencies until March 1st, and the other 8 bills funding additional agencies until March 8th. This is more heated and complicated than trying to split the check with a bunch of co-workers who are also exes you owe child support to. President Biden signed the stopgap bill, giving Congress another month and a half to work out a broader spending bill. However, considering 2 of the main sticking points in passing such a bill are spending and border security, which aren't looking great on either front, plus the fact this most recent stopgap bill is the 3rd since December of 2023, this isn't a good sign. In fact, this is such a hilariously bad sign, the Federal Highway Administration is ordering them to take it down. And in my ongoing attempt to talk about all the things YouTube doesn't want me talking about by hiding it in gaming content, check out this video about Pikmin, which is actually about why people follow dictators. And America Uncovered wouldn't exist without your support. Click that orange button to support us on Patreon. All it takes is $1 an episode, and you can set a monthly limit. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.